Impressionism 1870 to 1890. What is Impressionism art? Impressionism was developed by Claude Monet and other Paris-based artists from the early 1860s. Thought the process of painting on the spot can be said to have been pioneered in Britain by John Constable in around 1813 to 1870 through this desire to paint nature in a realistic way. Fine arts Impressionism art is a style of painting developed in the last third of the 19th century, characterized chiefly by short brush strokes of bright colors in an immediate juxtaposition to represent the effect of light on objects. These are the examples of the Impressionism paintings: The Artist's Garden at Giverny by Claude Monet. Next is the Boulevard Montmartre at Night by Camille Pissarro. The next one is La Grenouillère by Pierre-Auguste Renoir. Sculpture and Impressionism. In sculpture, the artists use nature to help them to create a new sort of liveness. They try to reflect their impression of the reality and temporariness of this impression. The most genius artist of the impressionistic sculpture is Auguste Rodin. His work was an irregular surface on which sunlight causes glittering. The sparkles of sunlight give the sculpture a new kind of liveness. And these are the examples of the sculptures by Auguste Rodin. A man who is sitting, and a door with a sculpture that is made by Auguste Rodin. Architecture of the Post-Impressionist period. This is a architectural impressionist by Mike Goyot Prague from the Street. This is an architectural impressionism that is called a possible architectural theory. Symmetry and the use of geometry were sought, and the design ceased to be so asymmetrical. The idea of making simple compositions that were full of harmony was also pursued. It was often built in a Gothic and Baroque style, which was considered to be the most inappropriate. Impressionism literature. Literary Impressionism is influenced by the European Impressionist art movement. Many writers adopted a style that relied on associations. The Dutch Tigers explicitly tried to incorporate impressions into their prose poems and other literary works. Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness Impressionistic Literature. Impressionism in literature writing that seeks to capture fleeting impressions of characters, settings, and events depicted subjectively as they appear through the filter of the writer moods and personal perceptions. In Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, Impressionists, whether in the literary or visual arts, sought to represent the interaction between human consciousness and the objects of the consciousness. Impressionist techniques in Heart of Darkness, the darkness of the offing was barred by a black bank of clouds, and the tranquil waterway leading to the uttermost ends of the earth flowed sombre under the over sky seemed to lead into the heart of an immense darkness. Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness. In Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, Impressionism differs from realism greatly, with the fact that culture's effect on the individual is only one of the many parts that create the experience. Realism puts priority on the culture and individual is a small part of.
Impressionism defined that Impressionism as subjective objectivism compared to the omniscient objectivity of realism, and his drama fell out of fashion after the Revolution. So second is Henrik Johan Ibsen. Ibsen was a Norwegian playwright and theater director, one of the founders of the modern realism in theater. Ibsen is often referred to as the father of realism and one of the most influential playwrights of his time. So there are examples of his drama, which is the title is The Wild Duck House, The Wild Duck Dolls, The Lady from the Sea. So next, let's talk about the music in Impressionism. So George Bizet was the French composers of the Romantic era, and Charles Gounod the one who influenced him to compose music. He composed a few works, or a few music, which is Carmen, Habanera, and Symphony in C. So next is Maurice Ravel. Maurice Ravel was a French composer, pianist, and conductor. He is often associated with Impressionists. He had a type of style which means he chose to play by the rule, but composed what sounded best to him. He made composers early satire in the 1890s and was partly inspired by his experimental approach. So there are some music that he composed, which is piano, concerto in G, the mirrors, sonate, and the last is bolero, and there are some, but I didn't write. So next is dance. Dance in Impressionism. So Marius Petipa was a French ballet dancer and choreographer, and he is the one of the most influential ballet master in a ballet history. So this is some example of his dance, which is ambitious sexism and sleeping beauty. So we see that there are two examples. There are some examples, but I don't put. So let's proceed to Yardrich Tchaikovsky, the most popular and first Russian composers whose music made lasting impression and internationality. So each is the most popular composers all the time. So this is his composed, which is Swan Lake Dance. Swan Lake is now one of the popular ballet of all the time. So let's proceed to the film in Impressionism. French Impressionist cinema refers to the group of prints found on film markers of the 1920s. Film scholars have had much difficulty in defining his movement, or for that matter, deciding whether it should be considered movement at all. So, lastly is photography in Impressionism. So, Lewis Carroll was an English writer of children's fictions, notably Alice, Adventures in Wonderland, and its sequel, Through the Looking Glass. So, this is the example, which is, so we know this, the Alice and the Wonderland, the Alice Little Summer in 1858. So, these photos in 1858 at age Carol age of 24, this photography was one of the most modern. So thank you and God bless.